this Pratt Whitney media briefing. I and my colleague Jim Speich will be talking about the overall regional market, including both the turboprop, which is the Pratt Whitney Canada portion, as well as the gear turbofan, which Jim will cover. Each of our presentation will take about 10 minutes, and then we'll leave about 5-10 minutes question at the end. We're a bit tight on time afterwards because we are hosting a luncheon with the RAA, which we're all inviting you to. If you want to join us, we're very happy. Right. So over the past few years, say we've really strengthened our position on the regional market. From the turboprops that usually covers the shorter haul, lower COC, quick missions, remote areas, to now all the way up to the more productive regional jets with the Embraers that just entered service last year in Viterbo, as well as with Mitsubishi, which is going to enter service soon. So that basically provides us the whole range of product offering for all the way up to, I would say, the narrow body and what is called now the A220. So very comprehensive range. But what we're also mostly proud of is we're able for each one of those applications to be able to support OEM customer and operator with providing them the engine that really meets their needs. And that's really something we're going to each talk about, Jim and I, in the presentations. So Pratt Whitney Canada, we all know who we are, I guess, you know that. We've been in the business for almost 90 years now. We've produced more than 100,000 engines. I think we're at 103,000 engines produced, and 63,000 are still in service at more than 13,000 customers. So that's quite an achievement. And I would say the regional market is definitely an area where we've been striving since, I would say, almost 40 years now. We've established a strong leadership positions. And it's no surprise that we've been constantly investing into that market, providing a new solution. When you look at our engines, for instance, we've grown them for about just under 2,000 shaft horsepower, all the way up to 5,000 shaft horsepower. And every year, we've been continuously investing and listening to our customer to improve our product as well. And that also includes the APU. I mean, 3 years ago, we've repatriated the APU divisions from our sister company in San Diego. And when we look at the APU, let's say, market footprint, we're only about 75% of the regional aviation market. So that's quite an achievement. And what we see now, as we bring the two businesses together, we're able to provide even a more comprehensive solution to our customers. So that's very good. On our slides, you see some latest wins as well. You see the FedEx with ATR. That was a good win, and that's something that's quite new. I mean, usually cargo planes are built based on an upgrade or retrofit of an older airplane. Now ATR have managed to sell to FedEx a brand new cargo purpose-made plane. So that's something we're very proud of. We're also very proud to continue supporting Bombardier in their sales, and both those ATR and Bombardier have been quite successful in the past few years. I would say in some cases doing as much or even better than some original jets in terms of selling. What you're seeing here is also a lot of diversified missions. So we, Pratt Whitney Canada as a whole, understand very well what it needs, what our customer needs, and the engine we're producing for the regional market are also the ones that can execute tough missions, such as we get C295 with the ADS Airbus Defense System, for which we just delivered our first engine for the fixed wing search and rescue for the Canadian Armed Forces this year, and that will be produced next year in 2019. And also with Viking now taking over the CL-415, which will eventually become the CL-515 for firefighting. And we all know how that was tough this year, especially in this part of the world. So we're very happy to restart that line and be able to, again, bring value to all our customers. So in numbers, you can see that our numbers are quite impressive. When I was talking about the fact that we've continuously investing into our product line, well, you see it there. We've got over 1,000 operators on both the APU and the original turboprops, and both of them, we've always upgraded them. We have 38 models already built, with the latest one being the 127N, and similar thing on the APU, we have 19. So all in all, more than 50 engine upgrades. So again, testimony of our constant commitment to that market and to the industry in general. And coming in a couple of years, coming couple of years, we will be approaching 200 million now. So in 2 years, or maybe next year, we should be approaching 200 million hours on the original turboprops, and I would say about 120 million on the UPU. So that's definitely quite an achievement, and you can only achieve that through pure dedication. But we're not standing still. Obviously, we want to continue to innovate, and you've heard past where we were looking at working with some OEMs to develop the 90 packs. Well, that seems to have shifted a little bit to the right, but nonetheless, we're still leveraging our innovation capability to try to push the limit of either existing product lines or be ready whenever a new platform will be required. So we talked last year about the compressor demonstrator, which was completed in 2015 very successfully. We've achieved all of our performance targets. We've also demonstrated the full operability of the compressor as well as its structural integrity. And not only we're ready to go from a performance point of view, but also we've set up our manufacturing capability in order to ramp up when that would be required. Similarly, we're using also some new development programs, especially with the MA700 in China, to develop a brand new 150 hot end architecture that's going to give us 4 to 5% better fuel burn and improve our DMCs, and if required, could provide some power. So we're working hand in hand with the Xi'an Civil Aircraft Corporation of China, CAC, and we're anticipating an entry into service by 2022. So we're on track to deliver both the product to meet the requirements and to their schedules. And finally, now it's good to continue working on the turbo machinery, but also expanded our demonstrator phase to I would say a more integrated power plant. So this is where we're looking at bringing propeller technology, the engine control technology, bringing together so that we could have a more fully integrated power plant, which is going to provide more of a jet-like feeling to the operator or the pilots. And will also help a lot on reducing component counts, connections, and ultimately will improve our the overall engines and aircraft availability and reduce the noise. So we're very proud of that, and we're doing that not only with the regional market, but working at all our market at Pratt Whitney Canada. Pushing also innovation not only beyond the product, but also on services. So we're still going on with our journey with the fast systems, and over the years we've been very successful on the Q400 platform, where we secured quite a bit of operator. We had more than 400 installations done in service as we speak, and another about 150 in planning that is going to be done in the next few years. So that we're very, very successful. And overall, we believe that just installing the fast box on the aircraft, and fast stands for flight acquisitions, storage, and transmission. It provides a substantial economy for the airlines. We're talking about $15,000 to $25,000 per year, just in simplified logistics and reduce the UC, providing the data at the point of use, and faster recovery when the aircraft is done. So definitely something that we are very proud of, that we'll keep driving. We see a lot of interest, especially in the Q400 platform, and then we're going to expand. Similarly to we're trying to do from a technology point of view and integrate more power plant, we're also now offering prop balancing solutions, monitoring at this point for the Q400, but come next year we'll be able to provide a prop balancing monitoring solution. So airlines will come in with their solution, put the weight at right locations, and be able to return the aircraft in very, very rapidly. And now, which brings not only the engine will be on conditions, but the whole power plant system, including propellers. So that's something very, very important. I think that's the market. That's something we believe the market needs. In terms of oil analysis, I often compare, look at the fast system where it looks at the overall performance of the engine. The aircraft is a bit like your VO2 trainer and the oil analysis is what you could compare to a blood test. So from a blood testing, you can obviously detect a lot more things, and the solution we developed with the oil analysis is actually 100 times more accurate than the existing analysis. And by doing so, we were able to now not only understand and predict when a component can start to wear and may potentially yield to an issue in flight or having the aircraft down, but also isolate, because we're able to determine which components, which alloys are wearing. So it enables us to isolate the area that could be a concern. So we could then come up with inspection techniques to really properly track the evolution of that potential distance. So that's something that we've started offering in so also in the other market, and we're going to commercialize next year. And I would say finally, for on the engine side, for the engine, we're not only offering services but also commercial solutions, and that's something that we've been very careful about. We have a product. We produce about close to 10,000 engines, and 6,000 are still in flying. And very often, our customer demands a different type of solution for the older aircraft. So, as part of our commercial solutions, we're providing what we call not only the FMP, which is cost guarantee, but also a flight enhancement program where customer can come in and return their older core and get a brand new engines, including all the alloys. So that's great in order to maintain cost of operation low, but also to maintain the level of reliability and availability of the aircraft at the level they need to meet their, oftentimes their requirements with the major airlines. The P100 Smarts is really something like I was talking about more from a life cycle point of view, where we have engines out of productions, and through some examples could be through the FMP program or through an engine exchange, it could upgrade to the newest standards. We also offer under Smart some low cost HSI or overall. That could be sometimes only specific to either the gearbox or the turbo machinery. So therefore, you could really see that we're really tailoring our commercial solutions with a lot of flexibility and addressing the customer needs. The advisory services is also something that, when we step back, we often talk about here in the RAA, the pilot shortage. Well, right beside is also mechanic shortage. And oftentimes when you are an engine manufacturer, it requires a lot of maintenance. And you gotta make sure that your mechanics are properly trained and well supported. While we know on the regional airline business, oftentimes those mechanics are oftentimes using the regional markets to move up and then afterwards be working with the majors. So having the ability to continuously train the people, it's something that we recognize was a need. And that's why we set up what we call the advisory services. And we're basically leveraging some of our retirees, some of our experts at Pratt Canada to go on and audit the different airlines and make proper recommendations, which again, going to make a better use of their assets. Talking about spare engines as well, we've also evolved. We are offering, as you know, short-term leased engines and across our network. But the other thing we recognize as well is when there was a large purchase of a large fleet, very often the operator needed a bit of more spare for a longer duration. So now we came up a bit like the car industry to some degree with a long-term leasing of engines. So instead of leasing for 1 or 2 or 3 months, people can now, at a lower rate, lease engines for a period up to 2 years. That's something again, they may not have, especially the customer may not have the equity or the capital to buy fully and brand new spare engines. They could definitely use that solution. And I would believe that that's going to be something that's going to be very popular. And, okay. You want to, yeah, exactly. And the other thing we're also looking at further development. We talked about the Smart. Obviously, the Smart were for mostly the engine that were out of productions. We're looking now at using some of the solutions for even now engines that are still in productions, but maybe to a older standard. Talking about also some area where in some remote areas where there's not enough support, so people could use a suppression model where together we could, on a monthly fee, we could locate and position spare asset in their region. So it's not so much for the U.S. at this moment because we don't necessarily have issues with taxations and transportation, but in some areas, even around the U.S., it could be worthwhile. So that's definitely something we want to intend to do. And the final one is obviously when we look at lessor repositioning. We all know it's important. Airlines change hands very frequently, and we're offering up to $50,000 credit for lessor when they reposition an aircraft to a different OEM. So that's definitely something that we think is going to help, and we'll continue have our people flying our product. On the APU front, again, a similar story, very strong base on the, let's say, the smaller regionals, the Embraer 145, the classic Q123, as well as the Q400. Now, with the development of the new regional jets, we're also upgrading our APS 2300, which was on the E1 for Embraer, with the APS 2600. You see the 2600 has been quite successful because it's now being used on both the ARJ21 and the E2, which both have entered service last year, and will be used also for the Mitsubishi with the APS 2600, and we're expecting entry service in 2020. So on that front, I'll let the floor to my colleague Jim, and who's going to give us an update on the GTF.
Okay. Well, good morning. My name is Jim Speich. I'm Director of Marketing at Pratt Whitney. I'm going to give you a little bit of overview on the GTF engine program and where we are today. Our GTF engines, of course, are on 5 platforms. We're on the MRJ, E2 jets, A220, MC21, and A320neo. We'll focus today on the regional aircraft. We'll focus on the MRJ, the E2s, and the A220s. We've seen 16% is what the program started out at. Some operators are seeing greater than 16% fuel savings on their aircrafts, up to 17, or some have seen up to 20% improvement. The noise footprint reduction is real. I mean, if you get on any of the airplanes, on the A220s or the E2 jets, you can definitely hear the silence inside the cabins. Reduction in regulated emissions, when you look at European operators, very important because that's what sets fees going into airports in a lot of European areas, so it's noise and it's emissions. So we're seeing a big savings there. And we're up to over 9,000 orders and commitments and over 80 customers. So quite a large range of sales on the GTF engines for the 5 aircraft platforms, and operators are saving $1 million per year per aircraft. So quite a savings, even with fuel costs starting to come down, but now starting to creep up, this becomes more and more important. If we look at our revenue service today, we have over 1.1 million hours of total engine hours in service today. Those are the 3 aircraft that are in service, the A320s, the A220, sorry, I always stumble on the A220, I haven't been able to quite get there yet, but the A220s, 3 operators, 42 aircraft. And a good dispatch reliability across the family. The E2s, of course, are at 100% engine dispatch reliability. There we only have about 4,000 hours and about 3,000 cycles or so with 1 operator at Whitney. So 230 GTF aircraft and 26 operators. Just some fun facts for people, and I have to write these down because I cannot remember them. 65 million gallons of gas have been saved since we entered service with this engine. $120 million saved by the operators. 480 metric tons of carbon, less carbon going into the air. So quite remarkably clean engine. And we've transported over 45 million passengers to 570 destinations around the world. So those are kind of some interesting facts on how wide-ranging the fuel savings are of this aircraft and the engines that we have. So I'll go through each of the engine programs now. The PW1500 powers the A220. That's delivering on fuel burn, noise, and emissions. If we look at the operators, the 3 operators, I always like to say a lot about Air Baltic because it's just amazing how they built an airline around the engine and the airplane. They love the environmental cleanliness of the engines, it's quiet, and it's fuel efficiency. And of course, they've ordered more. We're at 180-minute ETOPS engine certification now on the A220s. So it's a matter of the operators that need the ETOPS certification to go out and get them with the aircraft. First deliveries in Delta will be in the 4th quarter of 2018. Looking forward to that. I don't know if you've seen the pictures all of the first airplanes being delivered. And the A220 is really building a lot of momentum. If you think about the JetBlue orders and the one U.S. startup airline that's ordered aircraft, there's been quite a few orders for the A220s along the way. So that's really continuing to gain momentum. On the 1900 program, that's driving aircraft fuel savings and quiet operation. Having flown on the E190 a couple times, the cabin is remarkably quiet. just amazing to me. I've been on a lot of aircraft. Matter of fact, I flew A321s from JetBlue, and those were loud compared to what the E2 is. So we're entering service at Whitney. Again, that airline is very impressed with the environmental benefits and the fuel savings that they're seeing. They're seeing over 17% in fuel savings. They had flown some E1s, I think, through Finnair, and they're comparing them against those, and they're seeing those savings. So that's great, and they like the environmental benefits of the engine. Preparing for EIS with Air Astana and for Joe Airlines by the end of this year. So 2 more operators coming online. They've gone through all our gates for entry into service. Field service reps will be in place. One thing you should know is that we put field service reps at entry into service of all airplanes. So when you go into an airline, Pratt Whitney has an entry into service rep there. That entry into service rep has actually been through flight testing. So he knows all the ins and outs of the airplane and all that they'll see. So there'll be no surprises. We're planning for the E195 next year with Azul, entry into service with that. And then the E175 E2 program, that program is moving along. We will have our first engine to test in early 2019 for that program. So we're continuing with that. Just a few pictures there of the Vitero and of course the profit hunter there, the shark on the upper right hand side. And then for the MRJ program, we heard the media briefing just before this. Our engine was certified back in 2017. Right now, the focus of the program is on aircraft certification and flight test support. As we follow and we move into the certification and EIS portion for the airplane. 4 flight test airplanes at Moses Lake. It's been over 1,000 flights and 400 engine hours there. 2 more aircraft coming on for next year, which we're supporting. And we're starting to get our production plans in place to support entry into service. You can never start that too early. And then the other thing is the first prototype engine was assembled in Nagoya. So we have the first PW1700 was assembled in Nagoya, and it's moving through the system there. You'll hear more about that not too into the future. And then just to close it is engine-wise. I know Frederick did a great job on all his services that he offers. We offer similar services. It's amazing how close we are in services between Pratt Whitney Canada and Pratt Whitney East Hartford, commercial engines that is. It's really, you know, we're about, the Eagle Services is really our services brand. And there's a lot we're doing in the services. We have different offerings on FMPs and how we service engines with customers. We're investing a lot in the digital technology and the data analytics, prognostics, meaning, you know, being able to predict what's going to happen to the engine based on engine data you get in. That's a big part of the business, and more data is available to us now. I mean, when I started, we probably only had maybe 20 parameters we could look at for engines in flight, and now it's probably over 6,000 parameters that you can see and you can analyze data from. So more data, the more analyzing you can do, and the more prognostics you can do. So we're investing in technology and the infrastructure. We're bringing up more and more engine shops around the world now for the GTF and other products. Columbus is the hub for the GTF within the United States. MTU's partners, IHI, Lufthansa's partners. We'll have ESA will come online next year for the geared turbofan, and then we'll also bring on Delta shortly after that. So a lot of new shops opening up and connecting with our customers. 24-hour help service. I mean, our 24-hour help desk is amazing. Calls come in there 24 hours a day, get answered right away. So connecting with the customers as we go along. So a complete service portfolio. So you'll hear more about EngineWise as time goes on. We'll start rolling out some of our services and some of our offerings, some more of our offerings. Okay, so I think I made up for Frederick's long time. We're going a little bit over right on.